There's several aspects of becoming a police officer that they don't talk about on TV or even teach you in the academy. And one of those unspoken topics is how desensitized you will become. Hey guys, what's going on? I hope you're having a fantastic start of your week so far. I do apologize for the lack of content lately. Things have been extremely busy in my personal life. The kids are in T-ball now, so from the time I start in the morning until about 8 o'clock at night is non-stop. So I'm sure, as you guys can imagine, trying to do a video at that time is a little bit difficult. Mrs. 401 actually came up with the idea for this video after something I had said a few weeks ago. I had just come home from shift. I actually had to stay a little bit over after leaving a gunshot victim that was laying there on their back. Long story short, EMS showed up, took the individual and took them away. I can't really talk too much about the case because it's still an active investigation. So I walked into the door and I told Mrs. 401 about this incident as she was unloading groceries. And then I said, "So anyway, what do you want to do for dinner?" And she kind of froze in place and she's like, "Wait, what?" So this kind of sparked an idea that she brought to the table about desensitization, being desensitized after a certain amount of time being a law enforcement officer. And after doing this job for 13 years now, there is a lot I have seen, as I'm sure you can imagine. Rotten bodies, bodies in car crashes, and the list goes on. And the things that you see when you first become a cop are shocking at first. And especially with people that don't have a lot of life experience, this is all completely new to you. And it's not really something you've had to deal with before. There might be times where you have to move a body, or you have to pick up a body part. You might be in your early 20s trying to solve marital problems between people in their 40s and 50s that have been married longer than you've even been alive. So not only does the job come with its own a very long set of responsibilities, but you're also going to have a lot of challenges you've never had to face before. After a while of doing this job, I would say at least 5 years, it starts just becoming part of your routine. It's not uncommon to be on a death scene and be planning with other officers where you guys are going for lunch while you wait for the coroner or even criminal investigations. Obviously, this is not a discussion you want to have in front of family members or the general public, but when it's just you and the other officers there, you know, it's just a body, it's not going anywhere, and I'm hungry, so where are we going? But cops become so used to seeing things like this. It's no different than being in an office environment and you guys are planning on where you're going to lunch while you stand around the copy machine. And desensitization is not really what I consider an option, but it's more of a necessity to prepare new officers for what they face ahead. And many departments actually have training in place just for that reason. But what kind of long-term effects does this have on officers? After all, we're human just like everyone else. We just have an absurd capacity for adrenaline that most people would either freeze or run. And there was actually a paper, I believe it was a thesis statement that was written for Walden University. I'm gonna read a couple lines of this to you guys because I thought it was very interesting. It says, "The effects of frequent exposure to violence and trauma on police officers can mean many things depending on the individual. Police officers who maintain negative or traumatic information in long-term memory are vulnerable to mental illness, unstable emotional and behavioral responses, interpersonal problems, and impaired social relationships." Very interesting. Now, as an officer, you have to recognize these within yourself and combat them. You have to acknowledge that you do have these issues and you're trying to deal with them. Now, this is only me talking. Everybody is different, but I know without a doubt this job has given me a horrible memory. Horrible memory? What does that have anything to do with trauma? Because for me, again, this is just for me, my natural response, my body's natural biological response to trauma is to completely block it out of my mind. And it's not something I make a conscious effort to do, it's just something that happens. I remember one particular call, I think I've talked about it in another video a long time ago. There was a cyclist that had just migrated here from another country, and he was riding down the road and he was hit by a Chevy Tahoe going 70 miles an hour. The guy in the Chevy Tahoe was drunk. So I got there, I was the first officer on scene, and I remember trying to give this guy CPR. The problem is that everything from here up was gone, right? No brain, no nothing. I knew the guy was dead, but still my natural instinct was to at least try to do CPR, at least make an effort to keep some sort of heartbeat going. So over time, having experienced something like that, my brain has naturally blocked it out. Do I remember the night? Like it was yesterday. But what I don't remember is what this guy's face looked like, or lack thereof. But everything, kind of like a Cops episode where they blur the suspect's face, My brain has naturally done that to my memories. So traumatic incidents like that, like the guy's face in my mind is covered with a blur. I can't tell you, if somebody put a gun to my head and told me to tell them, I wouldn't be able to tell them what this guy looked like. That is my brain's natural response to trauma. But to delve a little bit deeper into that, my brain is like, oh, anything might be trauma, so let's start blocking random things, which is the problem. That's the bad side of it, because I can't remember what I ate yesterday. And people laugh and joke and they tease me, and even Mrs. 401 says I'm like a goldfish with Alzheimer's. All jokes aside, that is just how my brain deals with things, and in turn it has given me a bad memory. I have a horrible time remembering people's names, things people have told me, and the list goes on. Mrs. 401 says being married to me is like being with Drew Barrymore from 50 First Dates. Every day is a new, clean slate. There are also other things that start to change as these sort of things develop, one of which, after telling Mrs. 401 what I was doing this video about, she wanted to basically say that you should mention about how you have an overly paranoid personality. I don't like people knowing I'm a cop. I don't put blue line stuff on my cars. I keep my patrol car hidden and out of view when I'm at home. My house is locked down and secured like Fort Knox. I always have a constant awareness of anybody that's near my home with cameras and so forth. Now, to me, this is just being cautious. It's not impeding on my daily life. It's just a part of my daily life. I've seen and worked home invasions where the victim didn't have enough time to get to a firearm, or maybe they didn't have a firearm. I've seen these things happen, so I am trying to prepare in case that ever were to happen to me. I will have the advantage. So really, at the end of the day, to me, this is just kind of a checklist of how to keep my family safe. And when Mrs. 401 is calling me overly paranoid, it's not, she didn't mean it as an insult, because she says that she feels extremely safe with me, which makes me feel good. I'm doing a good thing by keeping us protected, keeping us safe. But that, let's call it what it is. Even when we go and play tennis, which she's getting actually pretty good at now, I have my gun on the court. And okay, maybe that's a little bit overboard, but I would rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. And it's funny because as I was coming up with topics for the video, I was telling Mrs. 401 about this. She was like, hey, you should talk about this. I'm like, no. You should talk about this. No. You should talk about this. No. You're giving way too much information about our security. And I know I'm not the only one like this. Several other cops are exactly the same way. We are always talking about security measures we're implementing into our home or things we do every day. That's just some of the topics that cops talk about. But back on the topic of desensitization, it's going to happen if you work this career for any lengthy amount of time, at least if you're working the streets. I don't see this being a huge issue if you work on a college campus. But as time goes on, certain things will be beneficial and certain things will be detrimental as far as your personality traits and how they evolve through this career. The main takeaway from this video is to recognize when those things are happening to you, and if they are impeding on your life, to address them, to recognize them and address them accordingly. Always have an open mind. Anyway, guys, that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I do appreciate it. I'm sorry I have not been getting videos out on a regular basis. I would like to do a live stream sometime here in the next few nights, so stay tuned for that. I'll probably put it up on Instagram, and we will have some fun there. But either way, thank you guys so much. I'm so glad you joined me today. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week, and I will see you guys very, very soon.